So last month, Steam had an event they host multiple times annually called NextFest, a celebration of upcoming games. As the name suggests, it's a showcase of games coming out in the future, and provides a bunch of new demos you can play to see if you want to buy the full version on release. And normally I don't play demos. It's disheartening playing a demo for something I probably won't play when it comes out. But there was one that wasn't being hugely showcased on Steam, but instead I found through other content creators called Nocturnals. Nocturnals, set to release in September of this year, is being made by Cowboy Toad Games, which according to their itch.io page consists of only 2 students who make games for fun. But this one in particular was made by one teenager in dedication to their boyfriend, which is cute as hell. And you may notice the art style is pretty low budget. It's very indie. The 2Dness and style is very reminiscent of the 2000s, like something that would come out of the old Newgrounds. Even though it's not exactly eye candy, the trailer had this certain atmosphere that, along with the song being played, had a way to evoke an emotion in me that left me hooked.
Yeah. Sounds good. Wait, we're going down here? Isn't that the kind of place Nocturnals live? It's fine, there's barely any left. Do you think things will ever go back to how they were? That's assuming what's left of the world will want to. What the fuck?
Just give me the fucking keys!
It advertises itself as a choose-your-own-adventure, with your decisions supposedly shaping the main character and deciding their fate. And you can see that in the demo, which you should totally check out. It's completely free. But while playing, I couldn't help but be reminded of one studio that was best known for these linear-type story games.
Hey, Sweet Pea.
Telltale Games, founded in 2004, was a studio that was best known for their choose-your-own-adventure style games, with their most notable series being The Walking Dead, created in 2012 and concluding 6 years later in 2018. However, after they released the last season of The Walking Dead, they were shut down due to a lack of funding. As of 2024, honestly, I don't really know if Telltale is back or not. They're in this weird limbo where technically it was bought and acquired by another company, but the employees are different. Apparently after The Walking Dead, they made another game called The Expanse based off the TV show, but it just wasn't the same as their previous works. I don't know, it's a confusing mess. But before they shut down, they did so many different games revolving around other TV shows, movies, or other games entirely. They did one on Game of Thrones, which you can't play anymore because they don't have the license to sell it. But if you're a Marvel fan, they did a game on Guardians of the Galaxy, which they also don't have the license to sell anymore. They also have their own Minecraft game. I mean, it's Minecraft. There's no way that you can't play it any... Never mind. I'm starting to realize why Telltale probably shut down. But amongst all the Telltale games you can still play and the ones you can't, there was one I had always heard good news about but never looked into until I was reminded of its existence. The Wolf Among Us, released just after the success of The Walking Dead on October 11, 2013, is a detective neo-noir game with a layer of fantasy to it. And before I talk about The Wolf Among Us itself, I just need to mention the title. I'm sure back in 2013, The Wolf Among Us was a great name. It really gives this mysterious feel and does great to set the tone. But now, in the year 2024, I've literally asked so many people being like, hey, do you know the game The Wolf Among Us? And almost every single one of them has responded with, Among Us Among Us? I know visually it's obvious that these games are not related at all. I just wanted to make that clear. The only real similarity is that they're both somewhat murder mysteries. In this game, you play as Bigby Wolf, the sheriff of this little town in New York called Fabletown. Besides having the misleading innocent name of Fabletown, the setting is actually pretty dark. You see, this game is associated with DC Comics, and that might not mean much because DC is diluted with so many different genres. They can be very cute and lighthearted, or dark and gritty, but The Wolf Among Us definitely falls under dark and gritty. I mean, the game starts with Bigby getting called to an apartment to stop a fight between this crazy axe-wielding woodsman and a sex worker. And after resolving the issue and saving the girl that's being harassed, and having this sweet moment between the two, like less than 10 minutes after you get back to your home, the same girl you saved is now at your doorstep, completely decapitated. Now it's up to you as the sheriff to find out who done it, to find out which resident of Fabletown is responsible for the murder of, sorry, is that a frog? See, the reason Fabletown is called Fabletown is because its residents consist of, well, fables. If you thought Infinity War was an ambitious crossover, then look at this. It's got Snow White from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, now as an adult. As shown before, there's Mr. Toad from The Wind and the Willows, this Ichabod Crane from The Headless Horseman, which apparently both Mr. Toad and Ichabod Crane had their own Disney movie. If you are a fan of Disney, they also have Beauty and the Beast. If you're a fan of DreamWorks, there's Jack Horner, though probably not what you'd expect, and not nearly as exaggerated as the movie. They have Grendel from Beowulf, which if you've ever taken British literature in high school, you may have had to learn about this guy. They have one of the pigs from the Three Little Pigs, and his name is Colin. I didn't even know they had names. But in this, he's a smoker and drinks, or rather licks, alcohol. There's a lot more characters from a lot more folk tales and fairy tales that, while I've never heard of, are still fascinating to see. Of course, there's also the main protagonist, Bigby Wolf, who is supposed to be the big bad wolf, the one that would go on to attack Little Red Riding Hood, the one that would huff and puff and blow the pig's house down, but now taking the shape of a human who simply tries to maintain justice within Fabletown. He also smokes cigarettes and drinks beer too. The whole situation is a grim twist on the idea of happily ever after, as these fables now have to adapt to this uninviting new setting and find ways to cope. You know Beauty and the Beast and how they were rich, having this magical mansion? Well, now they live in a small apartment living in financial debt with Beast working multiple jobs to help pay it off. Mr. Toad, who in his original fable is this dapperly dressed toad who is described as a true friend with his heart in the right place, is now a single father who is extremely sassy and an unreasonable a-hole to his son.
Dad, the lights are shaking again.
What did I say? You want a big bad wolf to take you away?
No.
Then get the fuck back inside!
It's a dark world which causes some fables to become afflicted with addiction and or alcoholism. Some fables turn to extreme forms of self-harm. Some fables who try to simply make enough money turn to prostitution and sex working. It's not pretty. It's this world that you traverse as Bigby and characters you meet to try and solve this murder, with your choices dictating how well you can solve it. And Telltale prides themselves in your ability to make choices in their game. Even the synopsis of the Steam page says, "Your every decision has enormous consequences." In the beginning of every single decision-making story Telltale game, this exact phrase is always said too. This game series adapts to the choices you make. The story is tailored to how you play. Here's the thing. I grew up watching people play Telltale games, and then got to an age where I would play them myself. I found Telltale's The Walking Dead through this one Swedish YouTuber. He's not that big and you've probably never heard of him, but he's how I got introduced to and fell in love with Telltale. I practically grew up alongside Clementine, a main character in The Walking Dead, as she matured from 2012 to 2018. I was there from the beginning and a big fan of everything they had released following that. And as a fan of Telltale, I can say with full confidence that this phrase is utter bullcrap. Well, kinda. See, Telltale suffers a lot from course correcting, and what I mean by that is that Telltale will do everything in its power to steer you towards a final outcome, no matter what you decide to do. Oftentimes it gives the player an illusion of choice and freedom, when realistically you don't have nearly as much as you may think. I'm about to give an example from The Walking Dead Season 1, with major spoilers if you want to avoid that. I'm talking about a different game series entirely to help avoid spoiling The Wolf Among Us, but it's to help show the nature of Telltale games. But in The Walking Dead, there's one section where two people you know are in danger, and you must decide which of the two you wish to save. There's Doug, who's this nerdy tech guy who's very kind and reserved, and there's Carly, this news reporter who's not nearly as passive as Doug and is good with a gun. Now, what most people pick in this situation is to save Carly, and that's all good, until 2 episodes later in which conflict arises. See, there's this other character we meet named Lily, and Lily is absolutely crazy. And during the scene, both Lily and Carly get into an argument as Carly calls out Lily for the person she is. You know, crazy. And Lily retaliates like a crazy person.
Now, what the fuck's the problem? Drop it.
It's a shocking moment that shows how ruthless Telltale can be. Okay, now let's go back to episode 1. What happens if we save Doug? Again, you all survive to episode 3 and get back to this very scene, where because Carly is no longer here and conflict still needs to happen, Lily instead starts arguing with this other character, Ben. And like I said earlier, Doug is this very reserved and nice guy. He mostly stays out of this argument between Ben and Lily. He's not antagonizing anyone, nor has he said anything to make anyone mad. There's no possible way Doug could or should get hurt in this situation.
Now, what the fuck's the problem?
Ben!
No!
You're kidding me. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen a story game give you completely 100% full control of the game's story. Even Nocturnals falls into this illusion of choice. For instance, during the demo, Ted, the character you play as, breaks into this building in search of gas. However, Ted gets caught and confronted by this girl. At gunpoint, she asks whether or not Ted is alone, which he very much is. But you can either lie and say there's people with you, or you can tell her the truth. If you lie, she doesn't trust Ted and criticizes him, saying,
"I don't believe you. You would have come in with them. Don't lie in a situation like this. You're not any good at it."
But at least if you tell her the truth...
No, I'm by myself.
Shit. You shouldn't tell people that.
She criticizes you anyway. Now, I won't be as harsh on Nocturnals because it's only the demo, but Telltale and even parts of The Wolf Among Us are riddled with this type of decision-making. Because of that, I think calling Telltale a choose-your-own-adventure isn't entirely accurate because there's only really one adventure. It's more interactive storytelling than anything. The way I see it is that because Telltale games are an episodic journey, they have to hit certain marks, which disallows the player from making substantial decisions that would break the flow of the story. So instead of you crafting your own narrative, it's more so that Telltale gives you a narrative with a point A and a point B, but how you get there is up to you, the player. In that aspect, that's where you have a lot of freedom. When I first played the game, I played as Bigby simply trying to do the right thing, trying to find out who the murderer was while discovering the secrets of Fabletown. I was very pacifistic. But after beating the game, I wanted to play again and experience a different kind of Bigby. And that whole pacifism and trying to do right by and accommodate everyone was immediately out the window. And contrary to how I normally play, you can be a real menace.
You and me been going at it for hundreds of years. I'm through fighting. I'm dragging you back to the woodland.
Down! Jesus!
You're gonna tell me right now. He's had enough. Here, fetch. You fucking monster!
What the fuck? Bigby, you shit!
Wait. What are you doing?
What does it look like?
Don't just kick it in. We don't know what's on the other side. Oh my god!
Please don't kill me.
Shut the fuck up!
Good evening, Sheriff. I'm here to take you to the boss. What?
I did see this one review on Steam that I thought was really interesting. The review said, maturing is going from picking all the nice options to picking all the options that are most in character or appropriate for the situation. And right below that was another review saying they wanted Bigby to rail them, but this is the one I wanted to highlight. You see, Telltale made another game where you play as the crime-fighting detective Batman. And everyone knows Batman, so it's easy to really, as IGN or most reviews would say, make you feel like Batman, to make decisions that Batman would make or that are most in character. But arguably, I doubt not nearly as many people know who Bigby is. Unless you've read the comic book series which this game is based on called Fables, which they do a really good job adapting, Bigby Wolf is kind of this complicated figure. Now you don't need to read the comic books before you play The Wolf Among Us, just like how you wouldn't need to read the literal thousands of comics of Batman before you play a Batman game, because The Wolf Among Us is actually a prequel to the Fables comics. So how you wish to shape this complicated figure of Bigby is completely up to you, either making him the big bad wolf everyone sees him as, or someone who's trying to change for the better and outrun his past.
I thought we were all supposed to have a fresh start here. I can't change the past.
Well, you can't change people's memories either.
That is your contribution to the narrative. Now how's the actual narrative of The Wolf Among Us?
Mr. Wolf!
It's fantastic. Telltale does not miss when it comes to their stories, and The Wolf Among Us is no exception. And as much as I would love to go into specifics, I can't in good faith tell you more than that. These lips are sealed. But it's kind of difficult to go into detail without spoiling the story. It's a detective mystery. Any plot I try to talk about or story beat I try to discuss would only dampen the effect of playing it yourself. The only aspect of this game I've confidently talked about without spoiling much are the characters. And ironically, if this review doesn't show you that the characters such as Bigby are good characters, I don't know what will. The citizens of Fabletown, despite being harsh, unfiltered renditions of older tales, have a huge role to play and are what really make this game special. Not only do they add some charm to the game, but also do great thematically in showing juxtaposition between the whimsical fairy tales they once originated from and the now harsh environment they find themselves in. Its narrative is extremely rich in character dynamics, with the most prominent being surprisingly between Snow White and Bigby. Now that may sound kind of silly for what I believe to be an amazing duo consisting of a Disney princess and a guy that is depicted like this in Looney Tunes, but I genuinely don't think the game would be the same without them both. And the script that Telltale makes would not be able to shine nearly as well without the acting prowess of their respective voice actors, Aaron Yvette and Adam Harrington. That if they weren't returning in the sequel, I don't know if it'd be the same. And yes, this game was good enough to get a sequel, if that's not even more proof of its success. And after finishing the story and wanting more, I watched the trailer for the second game. Not only was it cinematically one of the coolest trailers I've ever watched, with every frame being wallpaper material, but the choreography combined with the music was phenomenal.
Violence? In the moments when you find yourself losing control. How does the anger manifest itself?
And guess what? Thankfully, it's coming out 2023. Yeah. Okay, it's probably not coming out anytime soon. Not only has the studio delayed the release a lot, but they don't even have an official date. We only have this one trailer, a teaser, and maybe 4 screenshots of the actual gameplay, with 2 images being shown a couple weeks ago. I don't know if it's just me coming off the high of beating The Wolf Among Us and getting able to experience such an amazing journey, but honestly, I would never have beaten this game if I knew it would make me long for the sequel so badly. Because me and the fans of The Wolf Among Us that have waited far longer than I for more than a decade will still be waiting for its release. Until then, if you haven't already, why not play the game yourself to find out why so many other people are willing to wait for this sequel's release. But in the meantime, when the day comes, Telltale, I'll be ready. See you around, Telltale.
I'll see you around, Wolf.